My name is Guy Harden, and as a member of our Speakers Board, it's my privilege to introduce Don as the president of Pedego Electric Bikes. My wife and I discovered Pedego during a visit to Palm Springs. I guess we were just talking about Brian, the manager there, who acted like he was the owner of his own facility, but apparently it's a company-owned store. We were able to ride several of the bikes, and we were amazed just how comfortable and how much fun they were. So wanting to know more, I found they were based at that point in Irvine. And I've always been interested in company startups, especially that are in our area, showing how our economy is still growing and improving and coming up with new ideas. Don joins us today to share with us the story of how he developed his new and growing company in the Orange County area, which I guess now is almost 50 employees. Please welcome to our club, Mr. Don DiCostanzo.
I'm going to float around the room. I think everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm almost an Orange County native. I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. When I was a senior in high school, my father took a job here in Fashion Island, and we moved to Spyglass Hill. And in the middle of my senior year, we moved to California. And most people said, was that terrible? I said, it's actually the best thing that ever happened to me for two reasons. Number one, California is a fabulous place to live. But number two is we moved at the beginning of my senior year, and I hated the school I was in. So that first half of my senior year, back in Connecticut, I choose to forget about. I didn't know anybody. I was new. I came to California. I acclimated very well to everything about California. I graduated there in 1975. Went to Cal State Fullerton. Graduated there in 1979, and then I went to work across the street at a company called WINS, W-Y-N-N-S, otherwise known as WINS Friction Proofing, automotive chemical firm based here in Orange County. I worked my way up the corporate ladder in over 25 years. I became the CEO in 1999, and it was my dream job. I went to work to the I wanted to run the company someday, work my way up 25 years, moved to Boston, moved back, moved to Dallas, moved back, finally got my dream job, and a year later the company was acquired by a large company called Parker Hannifin. Outstanding organization, not for me. They were very control-oriented, do it our way, we don't care the result, do it our way. WINS was the opposite. It was we don't care how you do it, get the job done and report the results. So it was a very short relationship after that happened, and I found myself in my 40s and trying to reinvent myself and figure out what I wanted to do next, and then I became an entrepreneur. I wish it happened 10 years earlier when I was a little bit younger, but nonetheless, went through some different things. But in 2008, actually 2006, I bought my first electric bike. 2007, I opened up a store in Newport Beach, California, next to the Crab Cooker restaurant. When I mean next door, I mean literally next door. We shared the same wall, and I had to smell that clam chowder coming through the door every day. And opened up an electric bike shop there to more of a hobby. And it turned out to be a very successful shop, but I was frustrated because the style, the quality, and the things that were being delivered by my suppliers were less than up to the standards that I wanted, certainly weren't up to the standards of the customers. So in 2008, I called my long-term friend from college. We pledged the same fraternity together. We were best men at each other's weddings. We were roommates in college. We owned another business together. I said, hey, we need to start an electric bike company. He said, I think that's a great idea. So we started Pedego in late 2008, and today we've grown it to be the #1 brand in the U.S., selling electric bikes. And we never really had the goal to be #1. We just wanted to be the best. But a funny thing happened along the way. When you try to be the best, somehow you become the biggest along the same time. So I'm going to share a little bit of that story with me. It's really an entrepreneur story more than anything. I'm going to kind of talk about a few things. I want to talk about our marketing strategy, our survey. Kind of it'll give you an idea where we're going as a company, what we're doing. There's probably a magic. There we go. We have 3 goals at our company. Number 1, we want to delight the customer. When a customer comes into a Pedego store, we want to make sure that they leave there delighted. We don't care whether they buy anything or not. We don't care whether they had a transaction. We want them to feel like that it was a delightful experience there. We want to provide amazing products, and we want to provide, we call it Apple-esque type products. when you open up the box of the accessories, it looks like an Apple box. We spent a lot of money on the box. We do a lot of things to make it so that it's a good experience. Apple's the only company that most people save the boxes that the stuff comes in. Okay, how many here save the Apple boxes their stuff comes in? Okay, do you save any other boxes? Not likely. But I've got lined up, I've got every box from every Apple product I ever bought. Why? It's such a nice box, I don't want to throw it away. Have you ever used the box? No, but they look nice in my bookshelf in my closet. And then the last thing, we want to ensure that our dealers are successful. Without dealers to get the bikes to the customer, we don't have a success model. There's no success model. So I'm just going to touch on a few of these things as we go along. We want to act like we're the leader, and we want our stores to be leaders. We've kind of taken this market leadership thing very seriously. If you're a leader, you have to act like a leader. So we do everything we can possibly to do that. So there's 4 areas. When I went to school at Cal State Fullerton, I graduated in marketing. And if anybody's in business, marketing's a key part, but it's kind of this magic elixir. You know, my father worked for IBM for years, and he was a manager in IT department, and he managed programmers. He always said, I never understood marketing. I never understood marketing. So I go to school and I take marketing because I wanted to understand marketing. And I really distill it down to the 4 P's of marketing, which they taught me in the first marketing class I had. You have to have a product. You've got to have a way to get it, a placement, distribution. You've got to have a price, and then you've got to have a promotion, a way to tell people about it. If you miss any of those 4 things in business, you're going to lose. If you do 3 of these things exceedingly well, and you're just the best in all those, and you miss 1, you're probably going to fail, right? I mean, if you had to pick 3, which 3 would you pick, and which one would you leave out? I don't think you can leave out any of them. You have to have all these 4 P's involved. So when we started Pedego, I called the 4 P's of Pedego. Interesting enough, the name of the company's Pedego starts with a P too. These are the 4 P's. I'm a guest lecturer at Cal State Fullerton every year in a senior marketing class. And a couple of years ago, one of the students raised their hand and said, Mr. DiCostanzo, there are now 5 P's to marketing. I'm like, whoa, okay, news to me. Does anybody know what the 5th P was that they came up with? Kind of interesting. People. And I thought about it, and I've thought about it since then. People are kind of inherent in all these things, so I'm not so sure it's a 5th P, but it's something to be concerned about. And I consider 5th P now to be social media, part of the promotion thing. There's people involved with that, and people interact in a different way than when I went to school. We certainly didn't have the internet. You couldn't find out anything you wanted on Google anymore. Now, my youngest daughter says, Dad, I don't need to know that. I just Googled it. Okay, she calls it the Google machine. I just go to the Google machine and they tell me everything. So each of these categories is important to us. I'm going to touch on them a little bit, each one briefly, so you understand what Pedego is all about. The first one and most important thing is a product. Without a product, you really don't have much of a company, especially a product. So we have about 9 different bikes in our product line series. We start out with a cruiser bike like this. And why did we start with a cruiser bike? Because that's what I like to ride. I wanted to be comfortable. As I'm getting older, I'm finding out my joints aren't as strong anymore. I don't want any pain. I want to be comfortable. So we designed this bike and all of our cruiser bikes to be super comfortable. Because when I'm sitting on it, I want to pretend like I'm sitting on my lawn, sitting in my chair at home. So when I'm sitting on this bike, if you'll observe, I'm kind of draped on the bike. I don't have any pressure points. I'm just sitting upright. I'm sitting just like I would in a chair. My feet are out in front of me. My arms are draped on the handlebars. Unlike cyclists, is anybody here a cyclist? What kind of position do you like to be when you're doing some serious cycling? You're down like this, right? You're looking at the road. Not a whole lot to look down there at the road, and you're down like this, and you got a lot of pressure on your wrists and your shoulder and your back and everywhere. Everywhere that I didn't want to have pressure on. So we decided that for our generation of the aging baby boomer, we wanted to give them a bike that they were comfortable on. So this was kind of the #1 product that we came out with. It's still our #1 product. It's the cruiser bike that that people want to buy, that just want to have a comfortable bike and sit upright, and not, when they're all done, the only thing you might be sore a little bit is your bum from sitting on the seat. Other than that, there shouldn't be anything sore when you're done riding it. Unlike a lot of traditional bikes where you're moving forward, the further forward you go, the more pressure there is on a lot of your joints. So why would you want to be very forward riding a bike? Why would you want to be down like this? What would be the reason you'd want to be down looking at the ground in this position?
Wind resistance is the main speed.
Exactly. Speed, wind resistance. Well, guess what? We don't need any of those. You know why?
Not speed.
We're cruising.
Because we have a motor. And the motor's what powers. That's full throttle, and that's the noise that it makes. So that's what's going to propel you 20 miles an hour without even having to pedal if you don't want to. Now, on that subject, you certainly should pedal. In fact, I tell most customers, if I find you riding the bike and you're not pedaling, I'm taking it away from you. There's no reason not to pedal. There's no reason not to move your legs. I'll hand out a catalog in a little while, and you'll read a story in there about a woman who is who's lost 277 pounds riding one of our bikes. Because the biggest accusation is, well, those are for lazy people. Well, maybe, but, or you're cheating. Well, I'm not so sure we're cheating. Are we cheating if we take the bike instead of our car? You know, and who are we cheating? Are we racing? No. Well, who would we be cheating? And the cyclists get a little frustrated by that because somehow they just don't think it's right that we get this level, some type of assistance. The best analogy we have is the golf course. Okay, how many here are golfers? Okay, if you watch professional golf, if you watch Augusta, what kind of golf carts do they have?
None.
No golf carts. Now, if you go and play at your country club or at the local golf course, how many people have carts? How about all of them, all right? Most people require you to have a cart now.
Exactly.
Is that cheating or is that still playing golf?
Still playing golf.
Still, of course it's still playing golf. So cycling's kind of the same thing. So we have, you know, when we start out with a cruiser bike, that worked well. Then some people said, well, I want more of a traditional bike. So we came out with a city commuter. Then people wanted a bike to ride on the beach, so we got a fat tire bike. And then we found that some people have a difficult time getting their leg over, okay, doing that. So we came out with the boomerang. Real easy, anybody, you step into it and you're on the bike. And that's turned out to be a huge thing. And the name actually we developed on the internet. We came up with a name, we couldn't come up with a name. We had several meetings, nobody could come up with a name. I said, let's put it out to social media. So we put a picture of the bike up there, and within an hour we had 300 people say, this is what you should name it. And right away when Boomerang came up, we said, that's it. It's for the boomers. It gets you there and back like a boomerang, and it looks like a boomerang if you look at the shape of the frame. So we named it the Boomerang. And you know, none of the creative geniuses at my company could come up with that name, but some customer out there did it. And guess what they got for the reward? We gave them a boomerang.
Nice.
Then people wanted to haul stuff. Gina's Pizza down here on the island wanted a bike that they could carry pizzas and deliver. So the Gina's Pizza down on Balboa Peninsula has 3 of these bikes that they use to do nothing but delivery. And in the season, they don't use cars. All the people deliver the pizzas on bike. They get them there faster. They don't have to worry about parking. They don't have to worry about tickets. They don't have to worry about, you know, speeding down the thing to get that pizza delivered. They deliver them on the back of that. Then we came up with a full series mountain bike. The Newport Beach Police Department used these. There was an article in the Newport Beach Independent last week all about them using the bike. Then people said they wanted a folding bike, so we came out with a folding bike. Then we wanted just a basic bike without a lot of features, so we came out with a comfort cruiser. And then we have the tandem as well. So that's kind of our overview of our product line. Promotion's very important. You got to get the word out. You got to tell people about it. We do lots of things. We do a lot of printed material. Our colors are orange and turquoise. We've kind of stuck to what the numbers are, what the colors would be. It seems to work out really well for us. We picked it at the beginning. Our stores are colored that way. They're painted. Who said they were at the La Quinta store? Yeah. Walls are painted orange and turquoise. Our store in Corona Del Mar, orange and turquoise. All of our stores are painted in that same kind of theme direction. We took over the internet really early. We recognized that almost everybody was going to go online to search for something. Right now, 85% of all transactions, people do some amount of research online. They go to Google and they type in electric bike. Okay, so we decided 5 years ago we wanted to own the search terms electric bike, electric bicycle, and their plurals. So those 4 things, we own it. If you search on any one of those 4 terms, we own it. Now there's a lot of other things you could search on. You could search on moped, you could search on e-bike, you can search on terms. We don't own those terms because they weren't the most important ones. We just picked the 4 we wanted to own. So they're the top brands that are out there. We went against some pretty big time players. Our second competitor is a Dutch company. They're very well owned, huge company, multi-billion-dollar a year. they can't find their way. They were the #1 brand. Each year we kind of chipped away at them, took over for them. And they since bought the Raleigh brand. They thought that would help them go, but they got caught in all these bankruptcies, all these sporting goods companies that were going out there. We chose to stay independent and have independent dealers doing it. So those are the different brands sold by dealers. We did a survey of all the dealers to see, what brands they were selling. So this is what a Pedego store looks like. We decided that we wanted to have our brand hanging on the sign of the building, not Joe's Electric Bikes or anything like that. We wanted to be called Pedego, and we wanted to say what we were in our name. So anywhere you see our name, you should say underneath it Electric Bikes, because nobody knew what Pedego was. So if you see the name Pedego, what the heck does that mean? I wanted to make sure that not only is it Pedego, but what does Pedego do? Well, Pedego is electric bikes. That's what we do. Now, not everybody knows what an electric bike is, but you couldn't describe what an electric bike is, so that's kind of it. This is our store in Myrtle Beach. It's kind of a model store, if you will. I think it was probably the 50th or so store we opened up, but they all kind of look the same. Here in Orange County, we have one in Irvine in the Woodbridge Village Center. In the center there. It used to be right next to the Dollar Mover Theater, but the Irvine company decided to remodel that place, and they moved us back into a smaller place for more money, but we're doing even better than ever. And I'm not sure why, but I think because we're on the bike path, and Irvine is probably one of the best places in the world to ride a bike. How many people have ridden a bike in Irvine? What do you think about the bike paths in Irvine? They're definitely the best in Orange County. I could make a case to say they're the best in Southern California, yet there's nobody on them. They're empty. They're on Saturday morning, you'll see a lot of people out there. Early in the morning, you'll see, but by noon, there's just occasionally people out there. But the infrastructure in Irvine is just unbelievable. And you can get all the way from the Woodbridge Village Center to the Back Bay Bistro and never cross the street. Never see a stoplight. You can ride all on bike paths. A little bit there on East Bluff, you got to get on the sidewalk a little, but you still never cross the street or never encounter any kind of traffic. So they've got some real, and up in North Irvine, Irvine companies put all these connectors up, the bridges over, the roads and everything. Fabulous bike riding. One of the things that keeps people from bike riding, does anybody know the #1 reason people stop riding bikes as they get older? It's one word, it's a 4-letter word.
Lazy.
Come on, we're not lazy. It's a good thing. Hill. If we could go downhill all the time, we'd all be riding bikes, okay? So the reason people stop riding bikes is they don't want to go up hills. That's when it's painful, okay? And that's how I get started. So I love riding my bike, but I don't want to go up that hill. Actually, it's wind too. In the beach areas, you get headwinds, but the problem is hills. So you can overcome that with that electric motor. So when you get to that hill and you want to get a little bit of help, it'll help you get up the hill and you can treat. It's actually more fun to ride an electric bike downhill, uphill, than it is downhill. We're riding a regular bike, you can't wait to get to the downhill, right? On an electric bike, it's almost more fun to ride uphill because you've got this sense of empowerment. It's a lot of work to work those brakes on the way down, but going up the hill, all you got to do is kind of add to the throttle. So bike shops have failed selling electric bikes. Does anybody want to know why? Bike shops all over the country have failed selling electric bikes. They've tried and they failed every time. Does anybody want to guess why?
Bike shops are selling to professionals and not to general everyday people.
Attitude. It's all attitude. They got a bad attitude. They think, and most of them are competitive oriented, they think because I have to pedal, so should you. So therefore, we put bikes down in a bike shop down in Carlsbad when we first started out, no, in Encinitas. And the guy was my age, same name, gung-ho. I thought, man, this guy's gonna do a great job. Month goes by, nothing happens. He's got 4 bikes in there. So I sent a friend of mine in there as a mystery shopper. Goes in, says, look, I'm here to buy a couple of electric bikes, my wife and I, what have you got? He looked at him, and the guy had a bit of a gut on. He hit him in the belly. He says, you're too fat. You need to ride a regular bike. The guy says, no, I want to get back into cycling. My wife and I want to get these electric bikes because we live down here. It's hilly. No, I won't sell you an electric bike. You're too fat. You need to get some exercise. You need to buy an electric bike. And the guy's just aghast, okay? He's a friend of mine. He's like, I couldn't believe we're having this conversation. He goes, well, somebody told me you guys have Pedegos here. The guy said, look, I'm not going to have this conversation again. I'm happy to show you regular bikes, but I'm not going to show you my electric bikes. So I get this story back, and I'm like, really? Does this really happen? So I called the owner. He said, what's going on? Oh, that's Dave. Yeah, he's the manager of the shop. I said, really? I said, well, how can you expect to sell an electric bike? She goes, yeah, I think it's going to be a problem. I said, well, why? He says, because, well, Dave's never owned a car. He rides his bike every day. He rides his bike to and from work. He doesn't think anybody should have anything but a bike. He doesn't even like cars. And he's not going to encourage anybody to buy an electric bike. I said, I think we better pick those bikes up because there's no way you'll ever sell them with that kind of attitude. And that's kind of been the pervasive attitude. So we're glad that they're failing because to tell you the truth, if they were good at it, there wouldn't be any need for Pedego. At the same time, the bike industry is declining. The number of, by 20 years ago, there were about 20,000 bike shops. Today there's less than 4,000. And every year they go down and down and down. Because the kids today aren't learning how to ride bikes. They're doing the Wii and the games, and they're on their phones. Bike riding's not anything. So the age of the bike, the cyclist, is starting to diminish severely. So the industry itself has been shrinking, which is one of the reasons why we didn't determine to do it. So we figured out that last year that most of our bikes are sold at a Pedego store. Okay, so there's Pedego stores and there's some stores that specialize in selling nothing but electric bikes. That's where people are buying our bikes. Why? Well, because we give a good service level. We're catering to our market, which is the aging baby boomer. Our demographic is clearly 40 to 65. We got some 80 years old. We got one guy 95 years old that lives in South Carolina that bought one. Changed his life at 95. He was on the cover of North Carolina magazine. He said, this is the best thing ever happened. I got my freedom back. Because he lost his license 5 years earlier and he couldn't go anywhere. So now he says, I get on this, I can go where I want. Nobody asks me where I'm going. And I can just go out and have a good time doing it. So we've discovered that was the best rate. Our growth rate by channel, our branded stores are #1, the EIBDs, and those are the IBDs and other. They've been on the decline. As we've been growing, we've studied the market and discovered that those have been declining. So our plan is to open more stores. Anybody want to guess where this store is?
Elbow Island?
No, probably the other side of the country.
Is that Cape Cod?
You're really close. You're really close. That's actually in Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh, I remember. Right around
So it's
there.
done very well, and that was a close enough. So I'm going to give you a prize.
give
So
you a Pedego.
you guys got to pay attention. You get a purple Pedego watch.
Oh, God.
They're not great.
There's a ferry attached to this.
It's not pink.
So we've got these stores all over the place. You can't see much from this thing, but these are the stores all over the country and actually all over the world. We discovered by having our own branded store. And all we really did was to copy the Schwinn model. In the 1960s, Schwinn was the most successful bike brand in the world. They opened up Schwinn stores everywhere. In Tustin, there was Don Schwinn. You know, there were all these Schwinn dealers that were really, and I got a hold of 20 of their manuals and what they did, and mounds and mounds of paper, and I looked at this stuff. I said, I'm amazed they could do that without technology. So we just copied their model and said, let's just, instead of opening up Schwinn stores, let's open up a Pedego store. Does anybody know what happened to Schwinn? If you want to read up on how to fail, they got a good model, and it's called No Hands. And in the early 90s, the market shifted, and everybody went to making bikes in China. And it was almost necessary because we weren't competitive here in manufacturing. And unfortunately, it's really what our manufacturing challenge is all about. Today, you can't buy a spoke made here, a frame made here, a handlebar made here. Nothing's made here. None of the components are. And in our government's infinite wisdom, they've decided that if I wanted to make bikes here, that they were going to charge me 5 to 15% duty to bring the parts in. But if I bring the bike in whole, there's no duty. Does it make sense? I don't know. We've got somebody here that's an expert in international business. Does that make sense? Have you heard of this before? It's crazy, right? No. It's ridiculous. It's like, really? You're going to charge me? And in China, you can get the labor cost is $1 an hour. $1 an hour. You know what the labor cost is for me here? About $25 an hour when I got to consider benefits and all the costs of employment in California. So I could certainly make the bikes here, but they would then, instead of costing $3,000, they would cost $6,000 and nobody would buy them. They would buy the ones that were made over there. So as much as we all want things made here, it's a bit of a challenge. I'd also challenge people that think it's wrong and we should be making them here, and I agree with all that, and I wish we could, and I certainly would be able to do it if it were possible, but if I buy something, if I bought this fork in China and I paid $1 for it, and Guy, you're my distributor and I sell it to you for $2, and you sell it to a restaurant owner for $3, right? Just simple math. How much of that money is in the U.S.? Now, I paid $1 in China, I sold it to you for $2, and then you sold it to the restaurant for $3. How much of that money is made here?
2.
2 out of the 3, right? And if you didn't have it, then none of that money would be made here. But I'll argue that it's even one better than that. What happened to that $1 we sent to China? They loaned it back to us. So now we have the goods and the money. So I'm not so sure this whole, having things, they happen to be much more efficient right now because their labor cost is so much cheaper than ours. For some goods it makes sense. It doesn't mean we don't do well. And despite what some of the politicians are saying now that we're gonna put restraints on China, we're gonna make all these rules on China. If we cut out any kind of imports from China, Southern California we might as well fall in the ocean because so much of the economy here is built on importing stuff into the port there. And Walmart would be out of business, Costco would be out of business, we'd have no place to shop. I mean, it could go down the list if you look at the stuff that's made in China. So the trick in China, and Apple's figured it out, is to manage the supply chain, to manage the components that are there, and try to do much. So we employ 30 some odd people here, and plus our stores. We believe in employment here, and we do the final assembly here. It's the most efficient. So the bikes come in from China in boxes. Theoretically, they're full bikes, and then we put them together. We do the final assembly, we do the testing, we do the packaging, and we ship them out of here. So we still employ people as best as we can. And all of our stores are all entrepreneurs. Almost all of our stores are aging baby boomers that have lost their jobs in corporate America, and they've been displaced, and they can't get a job. Because who's going to hire somebody 50-something today? Pretty tough if anybody's been in the market. I had to start Pedego. My business partner's wife said, is this going to work? My business partner says, it has to, because nobody's going to hire me. So, in what's happening in the business world, I think entrepreneurship is coming back alive. People are finding ways to provide extra value added to things. Even if the good itself is made somewhere else, it's not all bad because there's a lot of money being made here. Pedego helps. We employ hundreds of people when you consider all the stores we have, maybe 1,000 people, and we'd be there. But it's only possible because we're able to import a good from China.
Does that include the battery?
The battery is we use Samsung and Panasonic cells, and just like Tesla does. The cells, they're very efficient. They've got automated facilities. By the way, I think the saving grace for us will be automation. When we can fully automate factories, then we don't have a labor cost involved, then we can be competitive in the world. Because if you put a robot here in California, it shouldn't cost much more to operate it here than it does everywhere else. That's where all these distribution facilities like in Amazon's building, these huge million square feet places, it's all being automated. It's not going to bring jobs back. But it does have a higher skilled people that are going to operate the machines and program the machines. And we own technology in this country. We still do. With Silicon Valley and everything we do, we've still got the brains part of it, what I would consider to be the best part about it. So as long as we can do that. A few years ago Chevrolet was going to build a new factory to build a new Camaro, and they tried to build it in the U.S., and they wouldn't do it. They couldn't do it because they wanted to make it a robotic factory, and the union wouldn't allow it. So what did they do? They went to Canada. And they opened up the factory in Canada. So we lost any jobs we might have had now because the unions wanted to control the labor. So what did they get? They got nothing. Now, I'm not anti-union, but I am anti what makes sense, and that to me just didn't make sense. That Camaro factory should be here. And I think we've got a lot of the same things going down and going on.
Obviously, you said that if the import duties are higher on the parts, you can't even try to assemble some specialized bikes if they have to all be done overseas.
It's just, we're at a competitive disadvantage right away. And I don't have the resources to go fight that rule and get it changed to make it so that and even if I could get it changed, that there's no duty on parts, it still doesn't make me competitive to assemble it because it takes several hours to put a bike together and they can do it more efficiently in China. And even if I did, I have to buy all the parts from China anyway. So all I may do is adding a layer because nobody makes any parts. There's not a single bike part you can buy that's made in the USA. So even if I was a manufacturer here, I would have to buy all the parts and import them from China anyway. So there's not any efficiency there. So we are opening a lot of company-owned stores. That means the thing. So our philosophy, our distribution philosophy, we're out to dominate the market and stay to become the best brand of electric bikes in the country. We do sell them all overseas. We sell I think about 8% of our business gets shipped to Canada and Europe and all that. But our concentration has been on this country. We've got every European competitor, bicycle manufacturer, an electric bicycle manufacturer competing with us here, and we skunk them all because they've got an attitude that you will buy what we sell in Europe, which are a different product. And my answer is very simple to that. Has anybody been to Europe lately and rented a car? Anybody here been to Europe and rented a car? When you go to the rental car places, you get a diesel station wagon. That's what they rent. Everybody drives diesel station wagon. That's their SUV over there. Why? Because gas is $2 a liter or $8 a gallon. So they drive diesel station wagons. You might be lucky, and it might even have an automatic transmission if you're lucky. Can you find a diesel station wagon here? If you stood on the street and waited a week, you wouldn't see a diesel station wagon. You might not even see a station wagon, a Mercedes or an Audi or BMW. You might see a few of those. They're trying to take their European, their station wagon and sell them here in the U.S. and they're failing, and they don't understand why. Because we're a different market. And so we've been able to excel because of that, and they still think we're all going to change and adopt, and we're going to start driving diesel station wagons. I don't think that's going to happen. See no indication of it. Yeah, we're not going to go through the detailed financial projections. So, in summary, we're a cash positive company. We don't have any debt. We have a line of credit with the bank that helps us during the season to load up and all that, and that's all paid off. We paid it off last week as we go through the season. We're out there to get more people to do one thing. Does anybody have any idea what our motto is about riding an electric bike? What do you think an electric bike is? Riding a Pedego. What do you think it is? It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so our whole business model has been based on people buy fun. I don't know what you can buy today for any price that's not fun. So I don't want anybody here to go buy a Pedego. I forbid you to buy a Pedego. But what I would like you to do is I'd like you to go ride one if you're so inclined. Go into any one of our stores and tell them you just like to try one and test ride. You can rent them. You can take them on a tour. And I'm not here to make a sales pitch. I'm only trying to convince you. And if you didn't buy a Pedego, I would just encourage you to try an electric bike, because anybody who gets on them comes back with the same thing and said, wow, these are fun. And I don't know what you can buy for any amount of money today. And if somebody knows what it is, tell me what it is, that you can buy that's as much fun as an electric bike.